Welcome to ReelShow number 6. I, of course, am fabulous Freddy Fame alongside me, Hobo Hank. Good morning, Hobo Hank. It's not the real show today. It's the real early show on a Sunday morning.
I know it's like Good Morning New Mexico here, so it's cool to be here in the morning. Good morning, Fred.
Little inside baseball. We reached out to Good Morning New Mexico the other day. We're going to do like a cooking segment with you and the morning show, so we'll see how that goes. That's going to end up being weird. That ends up being a thing.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the end result of that. That'll be fun.
We're going to recap episode 3 of Duke City Championship Wrestling. We had a fun event July the 15th. It was Sid the Kid versus Turbo Tony. It was Mr. Happy versus Valak Vile. And, of course, we debuted our Duke City Championship Wrestling belt. We're going to go into that at length before we do. A little back of the house talk as we kind of open up the world of professional wrestling to those who are so willing to come and be a part of it so very often. Do not forget, August the 17th, tickets on sale now, DCCW. It's a Thursday night at the historic El Rey Theater. Come hang out with your boys. I haven't told you this yet, Hobo Hank. I was saving it on air. I think we got a musical act lined up to start the night. So get there early. We're going to do a little live music before we do pro wrestling. We're just keep taking it to the next level, my man.
Well, that's awesome. You know, that was always a vision from kind of the start of this thing. We wanted to have more than just wrestling, and we've got such a cool venue in the El Rey at our fingertips, and so why not utilize that and kind of showcase some other New Mexico talent.
The only thing that's looking like an issue right now is some logistics. So set out with Man High, which is a very good local group here in town. It's just a little 2-piece band. They got a guitar, they got a set of drums, and we got to figure out a way to get it done. But they're in principle, and we're excited to have them. They have what I would call a wrestling-centric style of music, so I'm excited to bring them in because you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to get those 100 people that met us at 6 o'clock last night up to that total of 500 people, which we expect to have this upcoming August the 17th, and then have them throughout. You know, buy a T-shirt, buy a beer, hang out, be part of the thing, and excited for Man High to bring in. They're a little bit of a following that they have here in Albuquerque. They got a real good brand, and obviously we'll have their Spotify and everything available for people who are so very excited about that. Mr. Happy already with us in the live chat. Welcome and good morning, Mr. Happy. He's a feature on today's episode. We'll talk about him at length and any text commentary he would like to give, we would like to have. Also, Joe, I haven't talked to you about this yet. Sat down over the weekend with some officials here in the state. We're going to have a big conversation about making sure that pro wrestling has equal representation in the New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame. So we're very excited about that. So not just moving forward is the product that we create monthly at the historic El Rey Theater, but the TV show is doing very well. The state is recognizing the rebirth of professional wrestling here in New Mexico. And there's a lot of combat sports going on outside of us. So John Dobson, who we're going to talk about at length today, doing his bare knuckle championships. That's coming up on the 11th. We're excited to support him in his endeavors. He looks to become a champion, my man.
Yeah, you know, he sure looked in fighting shape last time I saw him, the night of our show. You know, it was incredible. He was all fired up, and man, we were so excited to have him there and just be a part of that. And I know some of our guys will be out supporting him on the 11th.
We try to keep this thing to 30, but that always ends up being a lie. And with that said, let's start jumping through the episode. Hobo Hank, we'll talk a little bit about how the night came together. We'll talk about what was at the time of recording matches 5 and 6, I think 3 and 4. Math gets hard. But what we're going to do is talk about the stories that are kind of behind these guys, talk about the performances. We had a debut in Sid the Kid, and we're going to talk about he a lot. And maybe my favorite match of the night outside of the main event was Mr. Happy versus Valak Vile, and we'll talk at length about that because Mr. Happy, a known talent here in town, Valak Vile, an up-and-coming talent that I think people are going to resonate with for a long time.
Previously on Duke City
You bet. Good.
So we open the program here. Fernando Gonzalez does a recap of the previous performance that the performers are in this episode. And that's the thing I really like, because if you don't see every single episode of the program, then what you're getting is a recap of what these guys did the last time they were out. And we're not necessarily keeping wins and losses, Joe, but we want people to be informed. Talk a little bit about what you feel like this 90 seconds adds to the broadcast every week.
Yeah, you know, I love that piece. That's a new addition. We didn't have that obviously the first show because there was nothing to recap. But bringing Fernando on's been a huge win. You know, he has such a cool voice, cool presence, and he's so engaged in the business. But yeah, as a wrestling fan, you know, you may not be able to tune in every single time or be at every event. And this way, if you miss something, you kind of know where you left off, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I'll tell you what's been kind of interesting for me in this last couple months that we've been producing, not just the live event, but now the television show, is how I'm watching other professional wrestling different now. And I didn't realize how quickly I'd be affected by that. But I'll give you an example. I saw on another promotion how before they're starting some episodes of their shows, they have guys doing like a direct like talk to the camera, and they're talking about what they expect to do tonight and the impact they expect to have against their opponent. And I tell you what, I kind of like that energy, so maybe we're going to look at a little bit more zest to what we're doing. Turbo Tony from the live chat. Turbo Tony makes me so mad. He's a disgrace to Albuquerque. And then the autocorrect to Turdo, friend of, friend of Duke City Championship Wrestling, the meme master himself, Joel Loevino. And, that he's interesting, Joe, Hobo Hank. You've met Joel several times. He obviously runs the Albuquerque Aardvarks, which is the rugby association here in Albuquerque. They got a big tournament coming up. A lot of talent in that world. And a handful of those rugby guys have reached out to you to maybe start exploring the world of professional wrestling.
Yeah, it's kind of a natural progression, right? These are big, well-trained athletes, good shape, young guys. And we've already talked to a few of them, and I'm excited to get them in the ring and see how they take to it.
I'm not saying any OGs are going to be in trouble, but if we start getting all these young, good-looking, athletic guys in this organization, people better watch out. Because there's a lot of talent out there. Also from the live chat, this is from the YouTube stream. Tony's a disgrace to New Mexico. Being from New Mexico and now me identifying as a New Mexican, I think a lot of New Mexicans might agree with Gupe Land over here.
Yeah, it looks like Tony struck a chord there somewhere. So
this was Sid's debut, Joe. Let's talk about that a little bit. He came out in the Duke City Championship Wrestling hat, which I was a big fan of. He has a look that I think is reminiscent of some guys who have done it at a really high level. Shawn Michael comes to mind, a little bit of a Dolph Ziggler, maybe kind of imitates a lot of that skill set from the professional level. What do you think he's going to bring to the organization as a whole? And I can speak at length of how he's helped us outside of the ring. So, I mean, he just seems overall like a guy who's really committed to the business.
Yeah, so I met Sid back in 2006, I believe, for the first time. So I've known him for a long time. He worked in my old promotion, LAW, and then he did shots for DWO, and he's wrestled all over the Southwest as well. So no brainer getting him involved in this. Sid's a good guy, and he's great in the ring. He has a whole different energy. Like you said, yes, he definitely has some. You can kind of see who's influenced him along the way, but he's still his own man. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. Because obviously, and I'll give you an example from me in my broadcast position. There's a handful of guys that I think are the gold standard, and not necessarily that I want to intimidate, or excuse me, not necessarily do I want to impersonate them exactly, but I am going to take some tools from their chest, because I can see that those tools are often best for the job. The fan involvement, my man. So many signs on the 15th, so much love and noise, or the opposite of love and noise from those in attendance. The crowd has become part of the show here in our second episode much quicker than I think I possibly thought they ever could.
Absolutely. And I think, number one, the lighting in this is so much better. We can actually see the crowd. We can see their faces, their reaction.
Yeah.
Love that. Love the energy. I'm still just blown away. All the years I've been doing this, I've never gotten so much feedback and just like heartwarming stories from people that have attended our first two events.
Mm-hmm.
Like, had those special moments with their children and just the memories it brought back for them. And I'm still hearing it. We're 2 weeks out from our last show. We're 2 weeks away from our next show. And, the energy that the crowd maintains between is pretty amazing.
Sid the Kid is kind of that example, I think, of the family that you're talking about, where I believe his father-in-law came out and taken some photos for us. I know he had family in attendance. Kind of neat to me how there's a village behind every single performer in this thing outside of the fan base that comes just to enjoy it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. These guys, this is a hard business, man. And it takes everybody around you to help you stay focused. And, you have bad nights, and they're the ones that help you through that. And it was neat to see, the support that each of these guys had.
You're seeing the replay here from Pro V Networks, and Pro V Networks just doing a banger job, I think, on site. I don't know if I've seen a better indie produced wrestling promotion. I've looked at length online. There are people I think that have elements that are stronger than ours currently, but an overall package so very quick. I'm impressed by the professionals that we've surrounded this thing with, and this is a G-rated program, but if it wasn't, if we were belly up to the bar, I would tell you right now, Hobo Hank, that kind of every aspect of this feels like the not F around game. Like this is a bunch of people trying to do it at the highest level, including our TV team.
Oh, absolutely. And people completely underestimate, again, you kind of alluded to it earlier, when you're going to present professional wrestling, it's not just setting up a couple of cameras and shooting the action. I mean, there's so many, how do we present that action? What kind of interviews do we include, and pacing and timing? And I mean, there's just a million different variables that you can kind of include, like the bottom right here showing these replays. That's awesome. But it all takes planning, and it all takes communication, and people don't see the meetings, the early morning production meetings prior to the shows to kind of get this stuff hashed out. A lot goes into this, so I couldn't be more thrilled or more proud of where we're at this moment, and it is going to get better.
Well, and I'll give you an example of back of the house talk again, which, by the way, I enjoy sharing. I think it's fun for the audience. I met with ProView Networks over that exact replay where Turbo Tony took Sid the Kid and ran him spine first into the turnbuckle there. And I was like, hey, we got 2 guys camera side. We have 3 total cameras on this thing. I mean, this is not a low end production. And I said, let's get our victim's face as tight as possible. Like we have the action from afar. We don't need 3 cameras at afar. Let's make sure we have Sid the Kid and the vitriol that is just overcoming him whenever he is ran spine first into the turnbuckle. And ProView Networks is so immediately ready to say, yeah, let's make that change. Let's tighten it up with our guys. So as good as I feel that this one looks, I'm excited for how much better the next one might feel whenever we put it on camera.
Oh, absolutely. Those guys have been nothing.
There's a good example.
Yeah, here we go. So,
yeah,
one thing that we kind of discussed was, anybody can buy a ticket and show up and go to the show. And ultimately, we hope that's what happens when somebody watches this at home. We hope that they feel what we're feeling or see what we're seeing, and they want to be part of that. But just to film it from afar and just kind of replicate what happened in the arena, I didn't want to do that. I want to be different. I want the people at home to see something different than what the people in the audience saw. And that's a great example, Fred. Just the close-ups of the faces and the reactions to the performers.
Yeah.
Sometimes, angles that the crowd's not privy to. And then, shots of the crowd itself. I want that energy to resonate through the TV so that people can see what being in that room truly feels like, not only for the fans watching us, but us watching the fans.
Well, this might not be the best screen to give the example, but it was in it, so I think I was going to take the chance. The amount of time that you and I put into these light trusts was too damn high. And we laughed about it a lot as we were doing it. We were problem solving a lot and running to the hardware store a lot. But I thought they brought a real value, specifically from crowd side out. Now, I think, and we have more lights now. I mean, we're going to put a little bit more on for our next program. But to me, it was kind of interesting to see just how much of a benefit there's the 2 here and then there's 1 up top. So to see the benefit that this brought to the surrounding of the ring and to the performers' faces in the ring, I didn't understand how important it was until we included it. And it's a big deal to make sure that not just you're seeing what's going on, but it's lit in a way that you're not mistaken on what you did see.
Absolutely. And as a performer that night, I can tell you just that subtle change in the lighting around the ring, it just made it feel different.
Yeah.
And it made interacting with the crowd just that much better. So
here's one from the YouTube channel, a friend of pro wrestling, a friend of Duke City Championship Wrestling, A Flowers. My daughters love wrestling, and after the first show, she wanted to know why Veronica Vega didn't wrestle, and why didn't any girls wrestle. Thanks for making it happen. That's why we're seeing the last episode of the show when Veronica Vega and Eliza Hayes put on a banger. Speaking of bangers, this was the first action we had on the entryway of Duke City Championship Wrestling, and I thought it was performed and executed really well by these 2 guys.
Agreed. That was a great crossbody from Sid onto Tony, and just another example of why, if I was a fan, I would be buying those seats that you're seeing right there on that stage. I mean, What a unique view.
Well, I think they're sold. I think they're all gone.
They're gone for the next show. So yeah, just FYI. So the last show, we tried something a little different. We actually opened up seating for the next show at the show, and we gave the people in attendance the first shot at it. And I truly expected to sell 10 or 15 tickets that night. I was blown away by we literally sold, I think, every front row seat but one, and every stage seat, I think, but 3. So
yeah, it was, and I know what the numbers are. I saw them this morning. I mean, we're already in the triple digits as far as ticket sales for the August 17th show. So if you haven't moved quickly, I would encourage you to move quickly, because those things, they go quickly. With that said, we didn't hit on this throughout, and I meant to, so I apologize. Tony had escaped multiple pinfalls via the rope break. Tony won this match via rope interference. I just thought that was really clever writing. I thought that was really clever organization. What is it for you to build kind of those stories within the overall story? How fun is that to go from the macro to the micro?
It's awesome to kind of see it all come live. So I've kind of talked about it a little bit, but I give these guys the direction, right? I give them, basically how long they have and kind of the rough outline of what I'm looking for out of the match. And that's one of those examples. So I wanted there to be a couple of near falls, and I wanted that finish to basically be what it is you saw. But it's up to the performers to get there and to do it. So I'm not scripting move for move, or what you see is a lot of these guys' work. So I don't want to take credit for that, but it's amazing to see what I've written down, and then see it played out in real life, and how accurately they normally do it. It's amazing that they can bring that to life in such a vivid way every single time. So kudos to those guys.
Well, and it adds another layer from my position, and I don't necessarily know if everyone tuning this is where I'm the voice. I do the play-by-play, and as I'm able to kind of stretch out not just the action I see in the ring, but the psychology that's there as well. Because how many times in a row can I say wrist lock? Not interesting. How many times in a row, or excuse me, how exciting it is that multiple times a night I can talk about why or how things happen from performers in the ring. And I'm appreciative of that effort. I'm appreciative of Turbo Tony, who I think is a top tier talent and one of the worst guys in the business. And Sid the Kid, I was so very excited to meet, not just in the ring, but outside the ring as well. I think he's an outstanding individual. Here's some fun feedback from the YouTube channel. It was nice. I was one of the first through the doors and bought mine as soon as it was announced. It was nice. Oh, and I see we got a little bit of an issue here with the graphics, but it was nice. It could be bought online. It's probably something that you should keep. I do think we'll keep that practice moving forward of having tickets go available. There was a little bit of a learning curve technology-wise from holdmyticket.com, which is an outstanding partner of this production. But yeah, I was very satisfied with the response to that.
You bet. And I think that's, it's another, I guess, incentive for people to be there live if you want to have first crack at those tickets. And then we've played around with some ideas of how to make that even more exclusive, because, obviously knowing that the shows that night might open that door for some folks at home, but I think we're gonna do some interesting things with some promo codes moving forward, and that kind of stuff. But
we might be, because these are kind of bigger picture things we talked about down the road. But how close we want to be to a VIP club, how close we want to be to a Patreon access. And I know, like, maybe a lot of the listener or friend of Duke City Championship Wrestling is like, hey, don't nickel and dime us. Hey, don't do this thing. We're by no means trying to. What we're trying to do is create a fellowship. And if there's individuals that, and I hope we're 1 year from now having this conversation, Joe, where I've sat in the same seat for every single show, and I'm surrounded by my friends at every single show, and created a fellowship, maybe the same fellowship you have for your professional sports team with your season ticket. I don't think that's something that we would stray away from, because I would be excited to include that.
Oh, absolutely. And going back to the show, so I love this shot right here.
Yeah.
I love the backstage promo. I love the ability for these guys to tell their story and introduce their characters verbally. But God, I love the set. I just love the raw look of where they are. That's obviously backstage at the El Rey Theater, and that's what some of these guys are seeing just moments before they get out there in front of the live crowd. And Fernando did a great job of bringing it to life. Just kind of helping these guys tell their stories.
We're talking, we obviously do the voiceover for the episodes every week, and Fernando and I are talking. I'm like, hey, walk me through this backstage. Like, how'd you feel it went? Was it organic? Did you have to script a lot out? And he goes, I never handed a microphone to a stuffed animal before.
That's
Okay.
Hot Dog. That's Hot Dog, the horse. And yeah, he's Albuquerque famous already. So I'm pretty excited about that.
We need to. We'll talk off air. We need to get some replicas. We need to get the little riding horses for the kids. That would be an absolute banger. A little bit of like a gimmick sale there. Here's an interesting edit. So I wanted to talk about this on the TV show, and this is the Raw. This doesn't have all the like match cards and names and everything put over it. But so Valak Vile comes out and he does a whole bit where he does really crappy magic. It's so funny. It's hilarious. Here's the thing. We got to be in 30 minutes for the episode of the program. We have to start making cuts. Come live to the show. Like there is a 5-minute bit here from Valak Vile that had me turned upside down laughing. That doesn't make the TV product because we have time restraints for television. So there's just another added incentive to make sure you get out and enjoy it live from the historic El Rey Theater, DCCWtickets.com. Because you are getting the program here on the television show. You're not getting all of the program. It is something special in person.
Absolutely. And we want to keep it that way. To me, the television show is a commercial for you to come down and join us live. My hope is that over time we have more people joining us live and then just re-enjoying that product at home after the fact, looking for themselves on television. So
here's what we're talking about from friend of Duke City Championship Wrestling, Goopy Land, talking about how they bought tickets immediately after the person next to them bought tickets, because what they didn't want to do is miss on the opportunity to be in that prime seating. Also, our pricing went down, so we were kind of working the math on it a little bit, and we thought we might just be a couple bucks heavy everywhere. And the idea is, if we lower the prices, can we get more people earlier and then have them do what? Bring the fellowship, bring a friend, and maybe our GA access would be a little more affordable too. So I'm pretty excited about the new pay structure as well as far as the seatings go.
So am I. We still have a little bit of room in the El Rey. I mean, we had 400 plus in there, but we know we can pack more in there. And so we don't want to exclude people over a couple dollars. That's not really what this is about. So
there are eight ringside tickets at the time of this recording. I'm looking right at it, and then just a handful in that front section there that sells out. So yeah, if you're not moving quickly, you're gonna end up in GA, which by the way is a good way to enjoy the program. But it's not our 3-inch cushion seats that we talk about so very much. So moving on to Mr. Happy and Valak Vile. This one was a fun one. This felt vaudevillian. This felt the origins of professional wrestling. This one felt as what I remember as a kid that professional wrestling was, and that's two guys that are jobs as gimmicks. This to me was a fun throwback here in Albuquerque.
I am an old school fan, tried and true. I grew up in the 80s era of Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon. And yes, this is exactly what it is. It's characters that read super fast. I mean, if you walked into that room halfway through this match, you would get exactly what you were seeing. And I love that, and these guys, they do a great job of bringing those characters to life. Probably because, like so many others, that at the heart of their character, it's really just them, just turned up, amplified to 11. But yeah, I was excited to see this match. I know I mentioned on the last Reel show I was on the positioning. So this match was put on right before intermission. And there's a reason, I wanted the crowd to feel a very specific way when we went off to take our break. And I knew that these two guys could get that done.
Me, I'm a collector. I like, number one, to support people that support me, and number two, I like to support people who are following their dreams. And Valak Vile merch, that's what I got after the day on the 15th. So I got a signed 8x10 from Valak Vile. It's up in my studio. I'm at my home office right now, but at my actual office, it's right there next to a signed Hobo Hank and a signed Tyler Copeland, who's the guy who's going to join us at our next event. I'm very excited to have him in. But this was a real special moment we're about to see right here. And this is what maybe put Valak Vile over to the audience, I think, forever.
Yes, and he made an ungodly mess of the El Rey Theater, which wow, right in the face. Look at that.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Yes, that stuff was everywhere. It was everywhere for days to come.
Did he ask you beforehand? Because I had no idea.
No, he apologized after the fact. So he asked for forgiveness rather than permission. But I love that shot in slow mo. That could be on the header of any video we do from this point on. So it was good stuff.
It's so funny you went to the cleanup spot because as I'm on the broadcast with Chris Burnett, I think I'm mentioning it too, where I'm like, there's not. Oh, and here's that replay you were talking about.
There
That
we go.
slow motion. Yeah.
Right.
Oh gosh.
That should be on every intro.
Yep. Just eats it. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think I was making light of it on air, but in my head, I'm like, what do I have to get like a static cleaning brush? Like, what's our plan to get this thing up? Like, how do you get the? But during intermission, like the boys came out, like Adam Merrick pushing a broom. We had some referees pushing a broom. Like it was a really good job of our guys making the event that happens after intermission, which is the debut of the belt, making that happen very quickly. And I was very happy with the crowd's reaction. I was very happy with the organization's reaction to make it a workable space very quickly after that.
Yeah, it was a really cool moment, and shout out to the guys at the El Rey Theater and their leaf blower for helping get that wrapped up.
We talk a lot about the El Rey, and a little behind the scenes again. We're really going to do like a collaboration T-shirt with the El Rey. Like we want the El Rey to be known as professional wrestling, and we got some ideas here. Their staff is so dang nice.
Yes.
I don't know if we've talked about this a lot, but we set up the ring for this multiple weeks ahead of time. Like the boys were able to come in, do a lot of pro wrestling, do a lot of work, do a lot of workouts. I know we're planning on setting up. I think are we setting up this week? Is that right for the show on the 17th? So I mean, we're gonna have a pretty good burn there too. And the El Rey doesn't have to afford us that time, and it is invaluable to what we're trying to do.
Yeah, it's a whole. Normally when you're dealing with a venue, you have a day of, and you have to tear down by midnight or whatever that night. And we have such a unique partnership with them where we have that time, and that's really what's afforded us the ability to get that set up right and tweak little things and work on those light trusses like you were speaking of earlier. But man, everybody at the El Rey is from the general manager all the way, the lighting folks, the security guards, they have all been so helpful and just engaged with this. They're asking us, what else can we do? What can we do different? I just think that's going to be one of those things that's going to help us get better and better.
The guys ringside are wearing Pro V Network shirts. We should probably figure out a way to get them some Duke City Championship Wrestling shirts. Just a little bit of fun. That would be there. This one it's advancing. You look at those mats on the floor, and I don't necessarily know if we've talked about this a ton. Those aren't really there to protect you from harm, and the reason I'm bringing it up is because one's getting removed. They're kind of just there to protect you from like lesions. Like the idea is you don't want to get a cut or a scrape because bloodborne pathogens kind of put a halt to everything, and we have a process we have to go through as far as cleaning and taking care. But there's not a ton to those gymnastics mats, and you're going to see that right here with Valak Vile and Mr. Happy, and oh gosh,
it's a hard floor. That is a hard floor. But yes, we have those on the floor for accidents. So if somebody takes tumble over the ring, we don't want them to end a career over it.
There's not a ton. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that looks great with all the glitter confetti.
Yeah,
everywhere. It's kind of 90s era gold dust.
Oh, that's a good reference. Yeah, there's a lot of depth to it, and obviously I've been in the world of TV and radio a long time, and what you're doing is you're seeing a lot of different things at once. So maybe where my eye currently is in this shot is not where your eye currently is in this shot, and that to me is, I don't know, such an important part of creating a product because you're capturing people in a lot of different ways, and I think it's done really well. And you'll have to jog my memory here, but I think we're kind of coming down to the end on this one. And as these guys are wrapping up, had they performed together a lot, to your knowledge, Hobo Hank? Had they put a lot of time in being in the ring together?
They've worked out together quite a bit. I don't know how many times they've worked live. I know it's happened. But they're no strangers to one another, that's for sure. So again, I just had all the comfort in the world knowing that they were going to be in this pivotal moment for the night.
Love that, and you saw the finish here from Mr. Happy, and yeah,
It's
just a
nice.
great way to go to the intermission. Is put your shoulders on the mat, and maybe we got to talk about the ref about getting out of the way for this 3 count moving forward because I need to see that face. But yeah, there's a lot here, and I don't know if I'm a stranger if I'm letting anyone hug Mr. Happy, but I'm into the excitement of this young fan right here.
I love it right there. That's what it's all about. That will never be forgotten. So
Yeah,
nice job, gentlemen.
yeah, this is very good. One of our performers, Fonzie, weighs in. He says, both are great. They train constantly. Well, and that's true. When we were talking about building the roster, we were talking about building guys who were professionals. What a shot there. There's the moneymaker right there.
Wow, that is a good-looking gentleman on that screen.
I'm telling you. What's up with that outfit? You like it or love it?
Aaron Burnett. Let's see. Oh,
Stop.
sorry. Okay.
Stop.
Yeah, you're looking sharp there.
That's a purple vest on a floral shirt with so those are purple Jordan 1s I'm wearing right there to match the vest. The compliment tree could have had more branches when I was at the event on the 15th. It was people didn't know. I was trying not to drip on others, but yeah, that was the look there. That was good for me, and that's kind of it. My moment's over. They took it away from me.
Yeah, then Aaron, in contrast, is wearing a black T-shirt and jeans. That's how he rolls.
How well do you and I know him that there's no other outfit that he would be wearing? Like, it's put a little effort in, my man, but that's his brand.
I love it. I wouldn't recognize him if he was wearing something else.
And he was the morning talk guy in the alternative rock here in Albuquerque for what seems like forever, and he's still recognized that way. And we put up social media stuff, and people are like, I love Edge Fest, and I love this history of Buck Burnett, and he's got a following so many years later, and we're fortunate to have him in the ownership group. Also, that's why John's here. Him and John are good friends.
That is correct. Yeah, Aaron reached out to me. Gosh, it was pretty close to the show date. I think it was only 4 days before.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Hey, we got John's going to be with us that night." So I knew he was attending the event, and then he said he'd love to be involved in some way, shape, or form. So I was trying to gauge, what does that mean when somebody says they want to be involved? That could be a lot of things. And basically he said, look at that beautiful belt. Gosh,
ain't that good?
That is a beautiful belt.
Yeah, there was a lot of options when we were exploring, and I know this one design-wise is used by some other promotions as well. I'm not confused on that, but we didn't want the overly gaudy. We wanted a belt that we'd be able to put in the ring, a belt we'd be able to utilize in stories. And this one to me, and we went through a bunch of options, but this one to me, and Joe, you were in on the final say of this, it seemed like one that was versatile. And at the time I ever came that we decided we want to upgrade, we would be able to move from something really good to something maybe just a shade better. And I was just real happy with it overall.
So am I. I love the look of it. I love the logo of the company, front and center. It's clear, and it just comes through on the camera. So
big. Speaking of cameras, you can use yours on that QR code right there in the corner. We added that to this episode. I thought that was a clever addition. So, like, if you're getting excited for the next one, you just got to pull out your smartphone right now, scan that bad boy, and it'll take you right to the ticket link, and you'll be able to come and be a part of the event in person. And I get this is like a paid QR subscription. I don't know if I've talked to you about that. So what it does, Joe, is it's not just one I made in Excel. That one gives me a report on how many people scan it daily and like where the scans are coming from. So it's, we put a bunch of posters all over town. So I can tell you if they're coming from posters in the Northeast Heights or if they're coming from people watching on TV. Kind of an incredible little like resource tool there.
That's pretty awesome. And that's just one of the probably hundreds of things that we're doing just a little bit different than most other wrestling companies. Who do things to that. I mean, obviously you do, but that's pretty cool stuff.
Lots of feedback on the live chat. Thank you to everyone for being so involved, Mr. Happy.
That's a good question, Mr. Happy. I think we should address that after we watch this John Dodson segment.
We will at links. I had
Thanks for
Tony
setting me up.
Turbo Tony comes in through the ropes. He interrupts John Dobson. And again, inside pro wrestling, you and I and Tony and John and Aaron are in the back, and we're kind of going over the expectation of what's going on here. That conversation lasted about 2 minutes, and then these two guys came out here and just, in my opinion, wrote some Shakespeare in front of the crowd. You can tell John doesn't live on a microphone the way that Turbo Tony does. But John, I don't by any means think failed. I think John was coming from the outside of the business in, a natural. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah, again, we did not get to talk to him days before. It was moments before, and I was just going on the rumor that he was willing to do whatever. So ran them through quickly what I was kind of envisioning and the point I wanted to get across. And everybody was 100% in. This is just ad lib. This is just feeling the room. And but what a great result, to have, number one, to have our belt debuted in a way so different than so many other companies. To have somebody of his caliber out there, showcasing that, interacting with one of our superstars, very cool. And then kind of turn into a viral moment, which did not surprise me one bit.
Yeah, I was so incredibly impressed. And Turbo Tony, who I'm holding in a real high tier early in my exposure to the professional wrestling business. Obviously, the obvious stuff, the height, right? John is, I took a photo with him. John is a tiny guy. He packs a punch. He's a mighty mouse, right? But the guy is not big. And Tony came out and hit the obvious stuff for the crowd and then evolved it into bigger storytelling, which is, hey, obviously you're small in stature, but you're big in your other profession. That doesn't translate here. And he talked to the camera and he talked to the crowd and, he talked to everyone in the ring. And there was a moment there where I said, I'm looking at an absolute professional in Turbo Tony.
Yeah, you bet. Well, I was going to say, Johnson's, he's 6 foot tall. So that makes Tony about 7 foot. You're about 7'7".
That's the one. And that little finish we saw there where, Turbo Tony tries to take the cheap shot, John Dobson obviously counters quickly. And then the callback here, I was so impressed where as he's standing over, he was like, I'm not so short now, am I? And it's to me, just absolute poetry. Throughout the course of the night, it was a good way to start the second half of the show. Good way to end episode 3 of Duke City Championship Wrestling. You see it here on the replay, Joe. Is that the exact finish you thought you were going to have to the debut of the belt? And your boy right here, I can't believe the belt's on the ground. I'm losing.
That's exactly what I was hoping would happen. So, and I didn't expect an awesome backflip. That was very cool too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, of course, me and Chris got to get on camera. That was it. That's the end of it.
So the very next morning, jumped on John's Instagram and he had a reel of the finish there. By that, I don't know what it's at right now, but by that time, 11,000 people had seen that clip. So, what a way to debut a belt and what a way to, kind of put him over on his journey to the 11th and put us over and put Tony over. It did a lot of good things for a lot of people. So, lots of thanks to John Dodson. Awesome.
Yeah, he's absolute professional, absolute dude. And we're going to be able to support him. So he has this big bare knuckle fighting coming up. That's going to be August the 11th at Tingley Coliseum. I know we're going to get out there and make sure we're a presence for him as we boys help boys. There's not another way to say it. He's one of them, and we're going to be excited to be out there and help. So that wrapped up obviously episode 3, and I thought it was a banger. I thought it was good storytelling. The feedback's been good. We're about to talk about the road to the championship briefly, and we'll do that here. But first, the growth of the social media from the July 15th to today's ReelShow recording is just been astronomical. There's a lot of professional wrestlers reaching out, a lot of former guys from WWE and AEW and some organizations that you've heard of from around the country excited to come and work with us. And we're figuring out a lot of exciting ways to incorporate them. So get ready for some big names. Also, a young man, we're all old now, a very good friend of mine who I started my professional broadcasting career with in St. Louis, Missouri in the world of pro wrestling. Tyler Copeland's going to come out. We're excited to have him. He might not be a household name yet, but this is a full circle kind of moment for me. So we're excited to have him at our next installment of Duke City Championship Wrestling. Also, and this is cliche, like and share and leave a comment. And we just started the radio show this week going over. We have a terrestrial radio show now on the CBS Sports affiliate here in town, 95.9 FM, Saturday nights at 5 p.m. And why did we pick that time for the radio show, Joe? Because our show is often on Saturdays at 6 p.m. and we want to make sure people have a bleed up until the program. You can catch us now on television. You can catch us on radio. You can catch us on the internet. You can catch us live and in person. This is a 360 approach to professional wrestling that I'm alarmed how well it's gone early and how we'll be able to hit all these different avenues.
Yeah, it amazes me, every day. I'm finding out about things, secondhand sometimes. My girlfriend will tell me, "Oh, I saw you on this, I saw you on that, or heard," and I wasn't even aware that was happening. So, kudos to you for just keeping those wheels turning. Yeah, I'm super excited. So Tyler coming. He and I were texting this morning. I couldn't be more excited to get him out. I've seen his work, and he's great. He's great. I'm really excited to have him joining us. Valentina Loca, local Albuquerque favorite, who has gone on to do some big things. And, she's coming back to entertain and kind of revisit her roots. She'll be there. Tommy Test will be back. Another Albuquerque native who's gone off to Arizona and trained and worked in all kinds of different promotions. He'll be back that night. You'll see a lot of familiar faces from both episodes 1 and 2 of DCCW. So, and I'm not going to give it away here at all, Fred, but just to kind of put the icing on what you just said, we have gotten some interesting calls this week.
Yeah.
We have talked to some folks that are, ex-WWF guys, sons of ex-WWF guys. I say WWF because I'm old. WWE. That want to come out here and work with us, and we've got them already slated in, tentatively on some future dates. So it's pretty cool.
We have a guy who will join us, I believe, before the end of the calendar year, who has what I believe a lot of people in the industry would call a WrestleMania moment, which is wild to me. I was a fan. I remember watching it as it happened. I go, "Oh, this is a unique thing." And now to say, well, that gentleman's going to be sitting in the locker room with Hobo Hank. Just kind of an interesting journey the Duke City Championship Wrestling is taking. And a big thank you to all the fans that are exposing us to those personalities and all the fans that are exposing us to. And it's been weird. Merchandise companies, thank you. Ring apparel companies, thank you. Performer apparel companies, thank you. It's fans have made the effort to make sure we're connected with people that we know do really well in the business. And that's at least how I'm learning, Joe. I don't have 27 years of history like you do.
Yeah, well, and I'm still learning day by day because we're doing things so different. It's not just setting up a ring and wrestling. It's all this other media that goes along with it. That it's been so incredible to be a part of. I'm excited. So again, I'm not going to give it away, but one of the conversations we had were with the son or sons of some
Sons.
of Hall of Famers. So WWE Hall of Famers. And what's cool about that one is that I actually have some history with their father. So I think that'll be cool to bring them in and have some fun with them. But.
Yeah, and I'm going to Detroit this upcoming weekend with WWE for SummerSlam. I do some stuff yearly with them, and how fortunate I am for the WWE to treat me so well. But I'm going to sit down and have some conversations with people I need to have some conversations with, and I wouldn't be surprised if this time next week, which is Sunday the 6th, and I'm flying on my way back from Detroit to Albuquerque. I wouldn't be surprised if we got a bunch of announcements to make, or a bunch of new partnerships, or a bunch of opportunity for success, because this industry, as I've quickly found, and I think I told you this, I'm going to sit down with Jimmy Hart while I'm out there and just kind of talk about, the approach to what we're doing in pro wrestling. But the amount of fellowship, man, like, it doesn't necessarily matter what 3 or 4 letters are surrounding you in your company. There's just a group of guys that want to help dudes, and I'm into that. It's been refreshing in the world of entertainment.
Yeah, wrestling is funny like that, and Are there rivalries? Is there heat? You know, all that stuff. Yes. Is there jealousy? You bet. That all occurs. And then what's funny is as the years go on, um, and you're kind of um, facing the hindsight, all of a sudden the camaraderie returns. So
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, we've all kind of waged war together, and no matter what battalion we fought for or in, we all did the same thing, and so um, last year I had the opportunity to go to the Cauliflower Alley reunion just briefly. I was only there for the first day, and it was so cool to just kind of number one see some guys I hadn't seen in a while, um, but then just to share stories with guys that, although I'd never crossed paths with them in the wrestling world, just the similarities of the stories that they told to the life that I had, and that's what wrestling is all about. And wrestling's going to continue to grow in New Mexico, and that's great. That's what we want. We want more wrestling. It's not about being the only show in town. It's just about being the best show we can be in town, and and hopefully just seeing the sport enjoy the revival that it so desperately deserves.
Maybe we should talk about that because I know Jimmy Hart's emceeing it this year. I know it's in Las Vegas this year. I think it's the August 30th, I believe, this year. Maybe you and I should connect off air about why we should be there, because I mean, there's a lot of reasons that we should, and let's make the effort to get out. Outside of this job, my 2 men on my radio show, I need to go out there to meet with Circa anyways. We're gonna do some Super Bowl stuff out there, so it might just be a perfect storm for us to go and I don't know, make more of an impact in the world of professional wrestling and bend some of those cauliflower ears for a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of experience.
Well, you bet. I mean, there's so much in that room, and just history, legacy, and knowledge. I'd love to be a part of it again.
Well,
Look at there,
and also,
Thomas chiming in. We can't wait to get you here, buddy. I'm excited to see you and see your family. This guy comes with just a whole legion of supporters. So,
oh, does he?
No, you bet, and they're going to be excited to see him. So,
love that. Real quick, we'll wrap up here over the course of the next 2.5 minutes. Road to the Championship starts this 17th. That's August 17th at the historic El Rey Theater. It's Thursday night. What we're going to do is we're gonna not wrap this thing up in one night. This is going to take multiple shows. What's your vision on this, Joe? What's your vision on how we're gonna crown our very first Duke City Championship champion?
So essentially, I mean, a tournament makes the most sense to me. There's so many guys that have that deserve to be in the running for that, and I think that in it of itself is a cool story. The fan in me, though, I hate tournaments because typically you'll see them all unveiled in one night, and then you'll have to see the same performers wrestle 3-4 times.
Right.
The old school King of the Ring comes to mind. Not a fan of that. And so basically what we're going to do is we're going to have a bracket style tournament. There'll be 8 participants that will start on the 17th. The winners of those 4 matches will go on to face one another in our September event. And then finally, the final will be decided in our October event. So as for what kind of a match that we'll see in October to finally decide what our champion will be, that remains to be seen. But that'll give us some opportunities too as that bracket continues and different people face off. You may get to see some some matches that you may not think of. You might get to see 2 fan favorites go at it, or two heels go at it. You'll see new allegiances, I'm sure, and new feuds along the way. So I think it's going to be a really cool kind of journey to get us to October and finally crowning our very first champion.
Yeah, I think I say it almost every time we do a real show, or if I'm talking about professional wrestling on the new terrestrial radio program, heard afternoons on 95.9 FM or AM 610, the sports animal here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, CBS Sports affiliate. Also, you can find Going Over, the name of the wrestling show, on Spotify or wherever you grab your podcast. We were talking about this. A really good swerve in professional wrestling is as good as any story arc in any TV show you've ever watched. And I would be surprised if we made it through an entire tournament for the championship belt without someone being overcome by emotion or lust or greed. And I would be very surprised if you're not privy to one of the best professional wrestling moments, at least created here in the state of New Mexico, because This championship, although never crowned anyone yet, I think has a lot of perceived value, and the first champion is really going to define it.
Oh, you bet. I mean, again, behind the scenes, there are guys that would legitimately like to carry this belt.
Yeah.
Is it a competition? No. But do they legitimately want to carry it because it comes with that little bit of cachet of being the first guy to carry that? Absolutely. So, do I know how it's going to play out? Yes, for the most part. But I can't wait to slowly unveil it to the world as the months come on. So don't miss a show. Don't miss it. Be there August 17th.
I agree completely. DCCWtickets.com. Obviously, DukeCityChampionshipWrestling.com for all your Duke City Championship Wrestling updates. Follow the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@DCCDub. That's DUB. Go over there, check out everything we're doing because we're doing a lot. Also, the new radio show and podcast is available. Going Over is available on all the social media outlets. Going Over. Also, you can get it on Spotify. And you don't know this, Joe. Years ago, I hosted a radio show in St. Louis, Missouri called Going Over. It's already owned everything. So it was incredibly easy, to make sure we were there and in a position to have that branding. From a friend of the show and performer Fonzie says, we all want a chance for that belt. I think that is the sentiment. I think that is the conversation had, that people are excited to come out and compete. And I know fans are going to be pulling for certain individuals too. So what an excellent idea to crown our first champion. Joe, anything we missed? Anything we want to make sure we hit on before we cut it loose?
I don't think so. Just a reminder to anybody out there who has any friends that are, really anything, any business that they may own or be a part of. We still need more partners. So, and really in any line of work, doesn't matter what it is. If they're just interested in wrestling or interested in getting some great publicity, like Fred said earlier, we're literally now on television, radio, print, online. Got the live shows. We have the ability to do all kinds of advertising and interesting partnerships. Don't just assume that because it's not affiliated with wrestling that it won't work. Just put us in touch, shoot us a DM or something and we'll give them a call. It helps us keep this brand alive.
Well, I'll tell you what's interesting about it too. And, I've worked in TV and radio for 20 years, which is crazy. I'm the U of TV and radio. I don't know if I've ever seen a more passionate fan base than pro wrestling fan base. Pro wrestling fan wants to support businesses that support pro wrestling. And that's wild to me. The El Rey was telling me they saw pro wrestling fans at shows. And I said, well, if you can get our crowd that comes once a month to come several times a month, like, you're winning out, El Rey. Like, that's a very good get for those who are so early associated with this. So yeah, good point, Hobo. Good point, Joe, on making sure that people know that there is an outlet here. Also, it's affordable. I mean, we have a monetary deal that we do, and it works really well. But what else do we have? Trade. What else do we have? Service. So there's a bunch of different ways to be a part and contribute to Duke City Championship Wrestling, and we're excited to bring new people in, the right people, but new people.
You bet.
We're going to step away. Joe, thank you so very much for sitting down with me on a Sunday morning. We should have had coffee. We should have done like a little scones.
Well, we need a sponsor. I mean, there's got to be a local breakfast restaurant that would like to sponsor the ReelShow.
Yeah, where's Lindy's? We need Lindy's real bad.
Right. By the way, I had breakfast over there for the first time the other day, and it was delicious. So
it's so good. I go there all the time.
Thanks for pointing that one out to me, Fred. I appreciate that. I gave it a shot, and it was great.
As far as belly up, like Greasy Spoon Diners, it's top tier for me. Like, that is the spot for me. So also I know the ownership group, so a little free pub is not the worst in the world here. No. For Hobo Hank, myself, Fabulous Freddy Fame, and everyone who is so willing to contribute to the live broadcast today. There was a lot of people watching, so that's kind of them. Duke City Championship Wrestling. Good job, everyone. GG.